think of a place. Think of anywhere in the world you'd like to go. What is it that draws you there? What would you want to do there? Is there someone you would like to see? Some climate you want to experience? 1 year into the COVID pandemic, I'm sure it's not hard to think of anywhere you would like to go. But why you'd want to go there can actually tell us a lot about your own personal place attachment and what you value about our places. So is it a family member you want to visit, or an outdoor adventure you want to have? Is there a particular landscape that you're drawn to? All of these things are really important to us and our overall health and mental well-being. So when you think of place attachment, think about what values you're gathering from that place. And I'd like to tell you a little bit more about why I think this is important, both for our personal well-being, as well as in the environmental sector, how we can use place attachment and our personal place values to help create better environmental programming. My name's Nathalie Olson. I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator with the Battle River Watershed Alliance out of Camrose, Alberta. So 10 years ago, when I moved to Camrose, I was immediately in love with this place. I loved the big prairie skies and the little tiny flowers in the grasses. I loved the rural community and small town lifestyle. But what is it that draws you to certain places? Why do you feel at home in some places and other places just don't feel right? I was really curious about that sense of place attachment and how it works in our lives. Place attachment is a person's bond to a place. It can form in childhood or as an adult. It could be immediate or take a while to foster. It can be somewhere that you don't get to go to very often, but always feel at home when you're there. Place attachment can be a powerful motivator for how people will respond to the protection of a place. Place attachment can explain a group of people protesting a patch of woods being torn down for subdivision development. It can explain a group of people fundraising to help protect a heritage building. It can also explain a group of people protesting the development of a park that may change their land access. Place attachment is a powerful motivator that can work for the good of protecting our environment. The Battle River Watershed Alliance has a tagline, connecting people to place for action. But what really connects people to place? How do we help spur that environmental action? I was curious to find out how we could use people's connection to place or build it in order to promote that environmental action. A few years ago, I started an MA in Environmental Education and Communications. I wanted to explore some of my personal interests of place attachment, watersheds, and mapping. So I developed a Make Your Map workshop where people could explore and draw their own place attachment on a map showing their important places and what personal values were associated with those places. Here are some examples of the maps. Whereas historically, people in power have often used maps to exploit a place, we used radical cartography to put people back in power of their own place. These unique maps all show our local communities' connection to their own places and why they value them, what they think is important. From these maps and workshops, I found 5 different common themes that people really appreciated about their places. Those themes were relationships, society and culture, self, nature and sustainability, and recreation. And within those 5 themes, there were over 30 values that people identified as being really important to them about their places. These themes and values have been further vetted from subsequent workshops and lots of other place attachment research. Of course, not everyone lists the same values, and everyone has different priorities. But overall, these 30 values within these 5 themes give us a really good idea for what people appreciate about their place. This collection of values has given the Battle River Watershed Alliance a blueprint for how we can help connect people to place for action. By using the variety of different values that people find, we're able to engage new audiences. It's important because if environmental groups only ever do things with other environmentalists, we're not going to be able to reach new people, and we're always preaching to the same choir. So by using values, let's say, in the arts and culture, we're able to invite new people into our realm and hopefully connect them with their watershed at the same time. An example of how we can use other values to do our watershed work is our Finding Common Ground tour, for which we won an Emerald Award. We took people on a 3-day bike trip across the watershed to explore energy options and opportunities. It was great because we had people interested in biking who were able to learn a lot more about the energy system and their watershed. We also had people who were already really aware and interested in energy, finding out a lot more about their watershed and building some leg muscles at the same time. I think this kind of diversity of participants really helped create a fantastic environment for learning on the tour. By trying new approaches and utilizing different values, we were able to bring people of various backgrounds and opinions and ideas together. And it helped strengthen us as an organization and helped increase the learning that we were doing on the tour. So not only was this mapping activity useful for the Battle River Watershed Alliance to understand more about our people's connection to place and how we might utilize that to connect for action, but it also has been really helpful for the participants, for everyone to understand their own place attachment. Our participants reported an increased sense of appreciation for their home and understanding of what they love about this place. So not only was this activity useful for the Watershed Alliance to better understand our people and how we might be able to connect them to place for action, but it was also really powerful for our participants. Everyone who made their own map reported loving their place even more afterwards. They were able to point out specific times and memories that they had that would only be able to happen within that environmental context. I know for me personally, making my map has really crystallized what I love about living on a farm outside of Camrose and the community that we have built here. It has been amazing to see what exactly it is that I love about this place, and also illuminated what I would work to protect. Of course, there are still things that I would change, but knowing what I love and feeling like there's a lot in this community that I appreciate actually helps bolster me up to make those changes that I want to see and work towards them. If this pandemic has taught me anything, it's the importance of local. We need our local communities and they need us. And it's important to know those connections before it's too late. Solastalgia is a feeling of loss due to an environmental change. It's a sense of homesickness when you're still technically at home. Solastalgia can happen when a trail you loved is overdeveloped, or a patch of woods you played in is lost, or an algae bloom prevents you from swimming in your favorite lake. Solastalgia is a sense of grief and loss that shows us our place attachment too late. So I encourage you to think about your own place attachment. What places do you love? And what values do you get from them? What do you need in terms of your own physical and spiritual nutrition? Think about where you go to build relationships. Where do you go to connect with yourself? Where do you go for recreation? And where do you go to connect with nature? Some of these things may be more or less important to you right now. It may change over time or change depending on where you're living. But they are all important in terms of place attachment, building your own personal satisfaction and community cohesion. So get out your pencil crayons and draw your own map. Or write it in a journal, or draw it in the sand. But be intentional about knowing where you're getting your own place attachment values fulfilled and why that matters. There's many places in Alberta under threat, so let's be sure that we know that we love them and so that we're ready to protect them. Being in touch with your own place attachment can help add resolve to stand up for what matters. You need this, and the world needs this. Thanks for listening and for all of the work that you do.